Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us here today. It's Monday and a beautiful day outside, a much better looking day than what we had Saturday at Notre Dame Stadium. But the right result is what we got, and that's all that matters. 34-24 Notre Dame over Southern Cal. After all the hand-wringing and the rivalry and everything else, Vince, it came out the way Notre Dame fans wanted it to come out heading into the bye week.
Well, and there was nary a delay, which I think everybody was very concerned about. So that's awesome because
I got to the stadium a little bit because I waited. I usually don't get there too early. I thought about going to the IB tailgate, and Brian, when he got in the press box, he was like, "Why didn't you go to the tailgate?" It was pouring down rain outside. Didn't feel like standing out in that. So no offense to anyone who was at the tailgate. I didn't feel like getting drenched before I went into the game. But so I got in the stadium, into the press box, maybe around 20 after 6, something like that. And they were still in, what would you call it? Like weather protocol. They had like shelter in place, signs up on the electronic scoreboard. People were not allowed inside the stadiums, like the seating area. You could be out in the concourse and that kind of stuff, I think. And then I think within like 15 minutes or so, they got the all clear. 6:45 warm-ups began, and it was just like a regular game night from there. Yeah, it was wet, but we never saw any lightning the whole night. So that was a good thing, because I think that's what we were all worried about.
When we were obviously at Hillsdale for a 1:00 kick, and I was, I had all the rain gear, man. Like I was ready to rock, not one drop of rain while we were there. So that was actually a bonus. And then we even tailgated afterwards, nothing. Driving home about an hour into the drive, so probably 45 minutes outside of town to the east, we hit a wall of storms. That was probably at about 6:30-ish, 6:15, 6:30. Okay. I mean, could not see in front of us, had to slow way down, that kind of a rainstorm, and it looked like the sun was just blotted out. I mean, just torrential downpour for a while, and it rained consistently all the way the rest of the drive home. So I was getting a little nervous, and you guys were, me and Jesse, we had our little group chat going. You're texting us about the weather, and I'm trying to drive through all that. So that was fun. But then, like the skies opened up and it was sunny, and like, okay, well, let's rock and roll, man. Like, so
I never saw any sun, but
I shouldn't have said sunny. I should have said no more rain in the first half. Yeah. And then it rained in the second half, but no lightning, no nothing. Like
those raindrops just seem massive watching them fall down, man.
I bet. But happy about that.
Yeah. But again, things worked out. Tonight's show is a little bit of a sprint. We're only an hour tonight because we've got a Monday Night Football doubleheader coming up tonight on Sports Radio WSBT. Tampa Bay, Detroit first, then Houston, Seattle. It's a long night of football. All these Monday Night Football doubleheaders, not real big on it. I'd rather just see another game on Sunday. Yeah. Okay. Especially when games are kicking off at 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'm not staying up till 1. So unless my team's playing, unfortunately, they're not getting a 10 o'clock kickoff.
Well, they played yesterday, and I believe they blew out the Commanders, if I remember correctly.
They did.
So rock and roll to you.
It was a nice weekend. It was the most enjoyable weekend of football that I've had so far this year. Relatively stress-free.
That's a good point.
Almost stress-free. The Cowboys went down, scored on their opening drive. Then the defense actually forces a 3-and-out, and it's like, awesome, 3-and-out. But what happened on the punt? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, defense force. Washington punts down at the 1-yard line. Cowboys first play, safety on a handoff in the end zone. So it's like, are you kidding me? Safety. Of course, Washington drives down and scores. But that was about as dicey as it was for the whole thing. Condolences to any Giants fans watching. I for obvious reasons, I like the fact that the Giants collapsed yesterday. I guess be thankful you've at least got an entertaining product to watch this year with Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo. But they blow that massive lead, and then the kicker misses an extra point. Did your kicker miss any extra points, by the way?
One was blocked.
Ooh.
So really no fault of his own. It was like a lookout block up the middle.
Yeah.
So he only got 2 PATs, and it was a blowout. They got smoke showed. So it was a long day if you were a Hillsdale fan, but he didn't get a single swing of the leg in the second half. So that should tell you kind of how the game went.
Kind of one of those. Yeah.
But it was good for him. So, moving on to next week.
Craig in the YouTube chat, surprised the Cowboys had a defense. I don't know. I would call it at least imitation defense, like imitation bacon bits. At least, there was like something in the form of a defense. They're again amazing. Like they're a few weeks behind Chris Ash and Notre Dame, but amazing how the storylines have gone the same because Matt Eberflus finally made some adjustments. They played more man to man and they looked a lot better doing it against Washington. So there you go. Who knows? Let's talk Notre Dame because we don't have a whole lot of time today.
Yeah,
we need to get stuck on the Cowboys, but they go into their second bye week with a 5-2 record after winning a fifth straight game, 34-24 over Southern Cal. We're going to hear some of Marcus Freeman's comments from post-game on this show. Any top takeaways you have from Notre Dame's victory, Vince?
My biggest takeaway is the fact that Notre Dame just completely out-physicaled USC. And, we should be expecting that when it comes to USC because that's pretty much been the MO of this series for the last, 7-8 years, it feels like. Just the more physical team and has been Notre Dame a lot. And that was the case again. And I didn't think it was going to be as dominant as it was. I mean, they put over 300 yards on the ground, that kind of deal. So, they were just so much more physically dominant over USC. And Brian made a really good point. We did a show yesterday, and he made a really good point. It's like USC didn't give up, which has been their MO in some of these games. It's just Notre Dame's better. Like across the board, they're just they had the better roster. They were just the better team. They were more physical. And it showed.
Even like Lemon's good. Tanook Hines is pretty good. Maava is pretty good. There was really nobody else that I was that impressed with USC. You're right. Like when you look at the rosters, like if Chad Bowden wants to pat himself on the back about it, I guess he can do so. Although, I think when you look at the state of how recruiting continues to go, I still think it's more about Marcus Freeman, whereas like Bowden was the guy who happened to be just in charge of that department. But they still, whatever. I just think you're right about when you look at the talent level, but I also think that they were the better coached and more mentally prepared team Saturday.
Agreed.
One
staff flinched, the other staff didn't.
Yeah.
Like that's my takeaway from the coaching staff. Like one staff panicked.
Yeah.
And that
you run an end around attempted pass play in the rain. You want a wide receiver to handle a ball in the pouring down rain and have to throw a ball on the run and complete a pass on the run. That's your call.
Exactly.
Like major flinch by Lincoln Riley. Major flinch. Like he's a great offensive coach, but maybe keep things simple, and then like 4th and inches rather than just having the confidence after, you tucked yourself into thinking that you're this big physical team after beating Michigan last week. At 4th and inches, let's roll Maava out instead and see what he can do. Yeah.
100% agree. It was he overthought it. We've seen that happen at Notre Dame before, but in this case, it was Lincoln Riley. I mean, he overthought it. He even set it up to look like a tush push, and then decided to do the reverse rollout pass thing, and it just blew up in his face. I mean, it's absolutely blew up in his face.
Right. It is amazing the amount of USC fans complaining about biased referees and officiating.
I know, right?
Like, and not all these penalties. And look, there were gripes. Like they've put up their videos and stuff like that of all these holding calls that should have been called. Okay, But look at the way the game was called. There was one penalty for 5 yards called on USC. There were 8 for 95 yards, 96 yards on Notre Dame. So, like, even though maybe more should have been called on Notre Dame, like, just look at the imbalance right there. 8 on one side for almost 100 yards, 1 for 5 yards on the other. The officiating is not biased. It's just bad. Like it's amazing the number of visiting fan bases come in here to Notre Dame and think they're being jobbed by quote unquote Notre Dame officials. It's just amazing to me.
Like, do like a Google search. Like, come on, they're not Notre Dame officials. And if you've watched any Notre Dame games, which obviously they haven't, and that's fine, you'd know that Notre Dame's been getting jobbed by the Notre Dame officials all season. So, I don't like playing the official blame game. You know what I mean? Like, that's low-hanging fruit a lot of times, but it is hilarious to me that USC is complaining about the officials.
And the one replay call that I thought that they botched badly was the Malachi Fields no catch on the sideline, where it was amazing that he even secured the ball to begin with, but he had the toe down, and then his toe was down in bounds, and then his heel came down out of bounds, and they kept showing that up on the Jumbotron under. And I, like everyone else, thought that, okay, toes down, apparently, because this came up on one of the college football shows over the weekend. Like, if you can get your toe down, but if the rest of your foot comes down out of bounds, that's still going to be called out of bounds. Like, if it's a toe drag, obviously, then that in that case it's different. But that's essentially kind of like the process of completing the catch. The entire foot has to come down in bounds. Like if you tap the toe and then you step out, like with another step, that's one thing. But then, like toe in, and then the heel comes down out of bounds, like Malachi Fields, it's out of bounds.
By rule, it's not a catch.
They called it correctly. They called it correctly.
By rule, it's not a catch. And the official, whoever he is, the official that comes on to the broadcast, he's like, well, if they would have called it a catch, they probably would have stayed with it. But since they called it incomplete, then they're probably going to stay with that. It's like,
right.
Why are you getting paid? Like, that's not analysis.
That's the go-to
that's analysis.
But yeah, like that's what they can fall back on now, so they don't have to be wrong, in when they go to them. Yeah, that's what ND Forever 72 says.
Terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah. Terrible. So to your point about the physical nature of the game and Notre Dame out physicaling USC, Marcus Freeman said last week Saturday's game had to be a bloody one, and he talked about it afterwards Saturday.
Especially the rain helped it create that type of game, that it was going to be a O-line, D-line driven game. It was going to be one in the trenches. We weren't going to be able to throw up the ball a lot in the second half because of the moisture and the weather. And that's what we want. That's what we want, man. We want to. That's our edge. We got to play the game in a physical manner that's maybe not every team wants to play. I'm not saying that they didn't, but not every team wants to play that way.
And again, to your point, Vince, it felt pretty clear who the more physical team was Saturday.
I mean, when one team runs for over 300 yards and the other team runs for 80, it pretty much says it all to me.
And it really wasn't that difficult. Notre Dame's offensive line looked as that was the best game I think they've played all season. And we were worried about Joe Otting being he might have been the second best offensive lineman on the line, especially the interior.
It's a competition too, because I thought the three interior guys played absolutely excellent. I think all three of those guys played really well. Billy Shroud is the easy go-to because he's been good pretty much all year. But Joe Otting, I thought, played a heck of a ball game, because I was the first one out here last week, saying, look, Joe Otting didn't play well when he came in. And he didn't. But you know what? He didn't practice with the first team. I mean, it was literally the next man up situation.
He was rushed well. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, he give him a week of practice. And I tell you what, man, he not only held his own, but he played extremely well. And if he can continue that week in and week out for the rest of the season, as much as I love me some the guy who was starting before, and of course I said I love him.
Craig.
Ashton Craig, thank you. brain fart. I love Ashton Craig. I think he's one of the best centers in the country. But now that he's out for the season, if Joe Otting can do what he did, continue, man. Like that is going to be great.
And let's keep our fingers crossed that there's not another one out.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have any word on Billy Schrouth. We won't get any official word until a week from today because it is a bye week. And so there won't be any Marcus Freeman press conference. The next press conference will be next Monday leading into the Boston College game. So keep your fingers crossed, but I don't know. Like he left the first time, he came back, and I know he walked off the field, and we won't even.
I'm hoping he just re-aggravated whatever it was that he was playing on, and then this 2 weeks off could be very helpful. Like that's what that's what I keep saying. I'm putting that out into the ether because that's losing Billy Schrouth would be just a massive loss.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, he's been the best lineman that they've had all season, like consistently, and to lose him would be tough.
And only silver lining if that happens is you do have an extra week, and they're practicing the next 3 days before they get some time off for fall break this week and before they come back next week. So you would have some extra time to get the next guy ready to go, and you would expect that Sullivan Absher would probably be the next guy. But if that happens as well, it would essentially be just like last year. You would have, well, not just like last year, but you had multiple injuries on the line last year. The tackles last year were the only guys until Knapp got hurt in the semifinal. Right. The only guys who were there for almost every game. Those three interior guys, you had different guys for, because of the injuries. And so rather than Jagasaw and then maybe Billy Schrouth, Ashton Craig, now you've got Lambert, Otting, potentially Absher on the other side. I would expect that it'll be Absher if it comes to that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
We'll wait and see next week.
I mean, if it comes to that, Absher's the easy in at that point. If they lose anybody else, that's when you start getting a question mark as to who would step in.
Yeah. So Freeman also talked about the reassertion of being an offensive line, defensive line driven program. Notre Dame's offensive line, of course, owned the line of scrimmage, and we'll talk more about, we talked a little bit about that. We'll talk about Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love and their big night here in just a little bit. But he also talked about how Notre Dame's defense tried to make USC one-dimensional by taking away their run game.
Defense, we challenged them to say, let's make them one-dimensional, right? Like we can't let them run the ball at will and throw the ball at will. And that's what they've been doing. And for the most part, we stopped them in the run game. Obviously, they had some passes, and that was the challenge. Like, let's make them one-dimensional. And they were probably okay with us making them one-dimensional, and they had some success. But our guys kept battling, and that's what it takes to have success.
Did you like the game plan, Vince? Surprised at all by the game plan? What did you think?
I was surprised by the game plan because I was actually surprised that they moved Leonard Moore around the way that they did. That surprised me because we'll
talk more specifically about
I know
more in a minute. But
that's what surprised me the most about the game plan was that piece of it. And then also I was petrified about the loss of Gabriel Rubio because he's been so good against the run. They were excellent against the run. They were absolutely Jason Onye stepped up. Other guys on the defensive line stepped up. Elijah Hughes stepped up. Like the linebackers probably as a whole had their best game of the season because the defensive line did what they did. So, I mean, they absolutely took away the run game for USC. Just took it away.
I mean, it's basically the opposite of USC's game plan. They decided they were going to focus more on Notre Dame's pass game than the run game, obviously. And look how that worked out. It's also kind of opposite of what happened a couple of years ago with Al Golden out at the Coliseum when he was sort of willing to, cede the run game and that obviously backfired greatly. They had a massive running day against Notre Dame. That didn't work out. And, maybe the rain helped cooperate a little bit. It's not like Maava was completely off just because of the rain, but are you a believer now in this Notre Dame defense after seeing what they did out there Saturday night, Vince?
Oh yeah, I was on board last week. I'm even more on board this week because this was a very dynamic offense. I mean, they forced USC to throw the ball 42 times in a downpour. Like I don't know if Lincoln Riley called up Brian Kelly and asked, hey, man, how do I play offense in a hurricane? But if he did, BK would have said throw the ball as much as possible. So he did. And, they went over 300 yards through the air, but it wasn't backbreaking. You know what I mean? It was a bend but don't break pass defense, but this is a stonewall run defense. And I think the combination of that was more than enough.
Not sure what this means. Rocky Road in the YouTube chat says, I picked Devontae Smith. I mean, obviously, if Smith was available, he still would have played, but Smith was not physically able to play. So, he would have still been, even from Notre Dame's perspective, I think he would have been the number one option had he been available. But they obviously knew going into the game that he wasn't going to be available, and so they made the decision to go with Leonard Moore. And just, kind of looking big picture thoughts on the defense. USC was averaging 45 and a half points, 552 total yards of offense, 325 passing yards, 226 rushing yards, 24 points, almost half their average, 68 rushing yards, minuscule, just 30% of their average, 2.3 per carry. They got their passing yards, but again, the emphasis on shutting down the run game carried the day. It was huge. They virtually did nothing, and not even virtually nothing. They did next to nothing. They had a couple runs of 8 or 9 yards, and that was it. Notre Dame just slammed the door on their run game and went with the one-dimensional game plan, and that was that. Now we got to take a break because we've got a couple of breaks that we've got to get in. Because, again, this is a very short show tonight.
Yeah, it is.
1 hour. So we'll take a timeout. More Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues with Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Stiers. Listening to a few comments from Marcus Freeman after Saturday's 34-24 win over Southern Cal. Want to get one more thought on the defense, and then we'll get into some offensive stuff. I mean, we can't go too much further without talking about Jeremiah Love and Shadarian Smith, or C.J. Carr for that matter. But to attack Southern Cal's run game the way they did, you obviously have to have some confidence in your secondary to do that. You have to have confidence that you can cover. And we spent a lot of time last week talking about who's going to cover Malachi Lemon. Devontae Smith was out again with a calf injury, so they ended up going with Leonard Moore. And here's Marcus Freeman talking about that decision.
I mean, we knew we couldn't let Lemon beat us. Just him by himself. We knew we couldn't let Lemon beat us. Just him by himself. Every week you come up with keys to victory, right? The first key to victory was we got to be +2 in the turnover margin. Bam, we got it. The second one was we got to crush the run game. We got to stop the run game. We didn't crush it, but we did a good job there. The third thing was we got to eliminate number 6. And so how do you do that, right? If we're saying this is a key to victory because each week they change, how do you do that? And we said, okay, there's going to be times we have to put our best defender on him. And we did that. But there's like people would say, well, why don't you just do that every week? Because there's pros and cons. Because when he's not on him, it's like, okay, are they playing zone? Are they playing zone now? When he is on them, okay, they're in man coverage. And so you kind of tell the offense what you're doing until you expand the package. But that's kind of what went into it.
All right, so turned out to be pretty important. Move of the year, Vince?
So far, yeah, defensive move of the year, no doubt about it. I didn't think Notre Dame had it in them to kind of change up what they normally do.
Yeah.
I've never seen them do it before, at least not to my knowledge, or not in my foggy, cobwebbed up memory. This is the first time I've ever seen them do that. They said, look, he's their best guy. We're going to put our best guy on him, and Notre Dame's best guy won.
Right.
And it was one of the differences in the game. Absolutely.
For sure. But, again, you still had to be the more physical team up front, but to devote what they did to shutting down USC's run game, again, you had to have confidence you could cover. They got some mixed results with that, obviously. Like there was good and bad. Christian Gray gave up some plays. Christian Gray also made a big interception. I do wonder because obviously Leonard Moore was playing out of position because he doesn't typically play that nickel/slot position, which meant Dallas Golden, who had been doing that meant he had to play outside more. And, so I wonder if maybe that, especially early in the early going, kind of led to some of that confusion that we saw for a little bit early in the game, like confusion that we really hadn't seen nearly as much of the last couple of games. If there was a little bit of a ripple effect, they obviously did get it for the most part, shored up, and just turned out to be really big because Malachi Lemon, 4 catches for 76 yards, a decent day, not a game-breaking day, and that's what you couldn't afford. You just couldn't have somebody be a game breaker the way like Mario Craver was for Texas A&M in that game. You devoted your best guy to him, and it paid off in the end. So big-time move, I think.
Oh, I think it was it was a massive move. And I give credit to whoever decided that was going to be the case, but that was a big time move and something that I think that they should look at in the future potentially.
Yeah, I mean, and Andy Forever 72 says they did give up some big plays to Hines in the tight end, especially early in the game. But
because, it's a give and take.
There's going to be, that's what Marcus Freeman said. There's going to be give and take when you make a move like this.
I mean, the tight ends had 3 catches for 43 yards.
Right.
Like you'll take that because they've been doing a heck of a lot better.
The touchdown was a heck of a catch too.
100%. And like they had 8 targets and they caught the ball 3 times. Like that's pretty good against the tight ends, and so I think that their tight end plan was actually pretty darn good. You gave up a touchdown. I get it. But we went back and we looked, the target versus catch ratio for the tight end so far this season has been like 75%.
Yeah.
And it was like 37% on Saturday. Like,
I mean, the biggest whiff is obviously the 59-yard touchdown pass, again.
Oh, 100%. And that was like a clear miscommunication.
Right.
Clear.
Right.
So they gotta clean it up.
But the other side of this is, as we've been saying, okay, one, you held them to 24 points. What did we ask last week? If we said Notre Dame was going to hold them to 28 points, so 4 more points than what they even gave up, we felt that they would win. What was the score? 34-24. If you would have held them, you could have even given up 30 points.
You told me 28. You said if you told me that USC was going to score 28, no more, no less, how would you feel? And I said I would feel good about a Notre Dame victory.
You're going to win the game. Yeah.
And there we go.
That's right. You play to the scoreboard. That's exactly what happened. You're not worried about giving up a few yards. You wanted to, again, a couple less explosive plays would have been, a little bit more palatable. But in the end, you did enough to win. Again, you held them to nearly half of their scoring average. And what was it, like 200 and some yards below their yards average as well. You did your job.
Oh, yeah. So 100%.
You've got a track record now of doing that. All these offenses that came in averaging 30 plus, 40 plus points a game and 500 yards of offense during this stretch, Notre Dame has held them well below their averages. So still improving with a chance to continue to improve and continue to get better.
Yep. Absolutely. And now you have a very well-timed bye week. And so you get a chance to kind of obviously heal up. You get a chance to go home. You get a chance to do all the things that you get to do on a bye week. And I think this is a perfectly timed situation to get into the back end of the schedule.
Right. Exactly. So you can't talk about the game without talking about Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price and the show that they put on, combining for 315 rushing yards, 228 of it, of course, coming from Love. And here is Marcus Freeman on the unselfishness of his running back duo.
Not very common in college football. It's not very common in life to see two guys that are so talented, that deserve the ball in their hand every snap, but choose to put the team in front of themselves and then make the most of their opportunities, right? They're not pouting. They're each other's biggest supporter. I said this couple, but that's what you want your team to be a reflection of great players that make great plays when they have the ball in their hands, but continue to put team before. That's hard to do. That might be one of the hardest things we ask our players to do, is put team before me, because everything outside of here says, no, you come before team. And when great things happen, it's because of you. And when bad things happen, it's because of everybody else. And for those guys to embrace team before me, that's what I want this program to be about.
Vince, there have been a lot of talented running backs that have come through Notre Dame. And, I don't want to touch, things that happened 30, 40 years ago or whatever, but at least in the last 25 or so years since, which turn of the century, this century, whatever, are we watching the best Notre Dame running back duo of this century?
We're watching the best running back duo that I have watched ever, I feel like. I mean, just, the 1-2 punch of it is unbelievable. And Marcus Freeman makes a great point. Any other program, I feel like, Jadarian Price would have left to go be the number one guy someplace else. Honestly, the other guys that really aren't getting touches that are in that running back room that have a ton of talent would have left to go someplace else and probably been the starting running back. And the belief in that room that their time will come and that they will be the guy at some point. And then when you're 1A, 1B, you're getting opportunities as well. I mean, look, both of those guys are going to get drafted. Both of those guys are going to get drafted high for running backs. I just feel like I have never seen a 1-2 punch like this at Notre Dame in my watching years. So that's saying something.
I agree. And I think it is definitely, of right now. I'm trying to think, Ricky Waters and Reggie Brooks both played together back, 89, 90. Cause facilitate is saying ever. And those are two really good dudes. And guess what? Rocket Ismail he carried the ball 64 times that year himself. He wasn't just a wide receiver. They used him out of the backfield as well. So unlike facilitate, I can't go ever. I've got to give it to that 89, 90 era when you had Ricky Waters and Rocket Ismail and Reggie Brooks all there. And there were, Tony Brooks, there was some crossover with him as well. I think that might be best ever because they obviously, showed in terms of pro career, like staying power and thing afterwards. But, just like looking back a couple years ago, I guess what's this been? 4 years ago, Estime and Diggs combined for 1,800, more than almost 1,800 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns in 2022. That was Jadarian Price's freshman year. And remember, in spring, he tore his Achilles. Those two combined for 1,800 yards. Think if Jadarian Price hadn't torn his Achilles, he would have been the lead guy that year.
He was supposed to be the starter.
Yeah, that's right. Like he was the front runner coming out of spring as a true freshman. And then Love and Price both obviously played second fiddle to Estime in 2023. But Vince, we just witnessed the single greatest rushing day by anyone in nearly 100 years of Notre Dame Stadium. The best ever single game rushing day, the 228 yards by Jeremiah Love the other night. Greatest single game rushing performance by anyone, home or away, at Notre Dame Stadium. And like that blows me away thinking about that. And especially considering the fact that he did it against his school's biggest rival in what is, as of today, we don't know if that's the last time they ever play still at this point.
Well, and I believe it's also the highest rushing output for a Notre Dame running back against USC ever. Right. So, I mean, that's saying something too, because they played USC, I think 90 times. So that's a lot of opportunity for guys to get their hands on the ball. And Jeremiah Love is now the leader in the clubhouse there. That's something else.
Yeah, exactly. 9.5 yards per carry on 24 carries.
And it's interesting. We're talking about, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far, but if Notre Dame went to 3 or 4 backs because they were playing in an offense like the Lou Holtz offense or like some of those older offenses where it was a lot more running than it is today, I think we'd be having a discussion about them being one of the best running back rooms ever, because I think that there's a ton of talent that's not really getting much of an opportunity because of what these two guys are doing.
Right.
They're not going to 3 and 4. And if they went to 3 and 4, I think it'd be darn deep, man. I really do. But they're not, so it's not part of the conversation. But like some of the people in the chat are saying, going 3 guys or 4 guys, like you could go 3 or 4 deep at Notre Dame and be pretty good.
And look, I mean, there's still a case that Jadarian Price could, take a few more carries.
Oh,
in this whole thing. Like when you look at the split of the carries, obviously it paid off having him back there on the kickoff return as well. Was that, but I rewatching some of the broadcast and we have zero time today. So it stinks. We can't get like deep on any of this stuff because again, we're only going the first hour, but Todd Blackledge has said what I've said a couple of times. I think that when Jeremiah Love comes off the field, these defenses kind of relax a little bit when they see 24 instead of 4.
I don't know why.
And Jadarian Price is just like, fine, you're going to pay the price for it. You're going to pay the price if you think that you're getting a little bit of a breather when Jeremiah Love comes off the field.
Well, and I think Jadarian Price is actually the better actual runner of the football between the two of them. Like I think Love is just this all around, athlete, and you can split him out. You can do all these different things with him, and he's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But I think Jadarian Price is actually the better runner of the football. And so get right. If teams are going to take thank gosh, 4's off the field, they're really going to be in trouble because Price is a better runner of the football.
Look at the touchdown run. They're like the way he ran for the corner on just the run, not even the kickoff.
Yes.
But how nuts you have to be as USC to kick to Jadarian Price.
What a mistake.
It literally almost looked like seeing the one from 2 years ago and looking at that, there wasn't a whole lot of difference between the two.
Listen, first of all, I can't imagine they told the kicker to kick it down the middle, number one. And number 2, it didn't go far enough. So maybe they were trying to kick it out of the back of the end zone, and the wind and the rain and all that. But you kicked it right down the middle to one of the most prolific return guys in the country.
Yep.
I'll say it. I just don't know what you were thinking. And they zoomed in on the kicker's face, and he's like, I can't believe I just did that.
I can't believe what I just did.
You're right. I can't believe what you just did either. Because that lost the game for him.
Final timeout. We'll talk a little CJ Carr when we return. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat, IrishBreakdown.com. Got about 5.5 minutes left here.
Unbelievable, man.
I know. Vince, I think I found the winner for the best Notre Dame backfield of all time.
Oh, okay.
Now, I went and looked this up during the break. 1990.
Okay.
Rodney Culver, Ricky Waters. Culver ran for 710 yards. Ricky Waters ran for 579 yards. Rocket Ismail, 537 yards. Tony Brooks, 451 yards. Jerome Bettis only ran for 115 yards that season. Dorsey Levens, only 53 yards that season, but Dorsey Levens, because he was buried behind all these other guys, transfers to Georgia Tech, ends up with a nice pro career. Jeff Burris in there as well, who also played in the NFL. All 7 of those guys ended up playing in the NFL.
That's wild.
I think that's your winner, 1990.
Wow.
But this is a pretty good room they've got as well, of course, led by Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price.
Man, that's a lot of talent in one room right there.
Not bad. Not bad. Okay, CJ Carr, off game against USC, still won. Here's Marcus Freeman on his quarterback.
Interesting to talk with CJ in our weekly meetings, just what he felt. I don't know. I mean, if he knew what was causing those incompletions, he would have corrected it. And so, I just mentioned, hey, man, just be you, right? Don't press. Don't make this thing different than the last 5 or 6. And because CJ is a competitor, he's an ultra competitor, and I don't want him to use it to be a negative thing against him. So, but he's resilient, man. He came back the second half and really did a good job of leading our offense down the field.
I thought it was interesting how he talked about using his competitiveness against him, because it felt like that interception, that's just like, you've just got to know better. He's a really sharp guy, wise beyond his years. The whole thing, you just got to throw that ball away. There were 5 defenders and 2 receivers down there. Just throw it away, live to play another day.
Yeah, I mean, it was only a 2-receiver route in the first place. It was supposed to be a boot to the left. And then, with all the scrambling and everything else, I think Raridan and then 33, I'm not sure who that is. I apologize. They kind of bumped out for a route as well. So, because they were blocking on the backside and they noticed that their quarterback was scrambling. And so they kind of got in the mix there. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it was a very ill-advised, like the week before, what happened? Same exact situation. He runs out of bounds, takes the sack on 4th down, and we're like, you got to throw the football. Same exact situation, except it's 3rd down, not 4th down. Don't throw the football. Just get rid of it, and then you live to, I would say live to kick a field goal.
You're out of the pocket. All you've got to do is sail it out of bounds. You just you don't have to, like, not every incomplete pass is a bad play. Sometimes an incomplete pass is the best outcome that you're looking for. And, like in that case, that's definitely it. You just have to know. Sometimes you got to eat it, and as Blackledge said, maybe you settle for the field goal. They probably wouldn't have. They probably would have just gone for it, given Mark or Mark on the
2-yard line. I probably would have gone for it too, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not.
But that doesn't matter. What matters is you live to play another down, as opposed to turning the ball over in a pretty key situation. So look, again, he's a sophomore. He's obviously a freshman eligibility wise. He's going to make boneheaded mistakes. That's his first boneheaded mistake.
Yeah,
throwing the football. The other one was running out of bounds on 4th down. But this is, he's learning.
Matt Jeffrey, by the way, is kind of becoming, you remember Daniel Jones from 10 or 12 years ago? Like when he would come on the field, it was obvious. Wide receiver would come on the field. It was like, okay, here comes the run play.
Yeah,
like here's the blocking wide receiver. They've got to kind of figure that out with Matt Jeffrey a little bit, because that's, like his appearances tend to coincide with, okay, there's going to be some kind of run play.
Yeah.
Going to have to disguise that a little bit more, I think.
Well, I mean, they did throw the ball on that play that we're referring to.
As he ended up throwing the ball. But Jay's asking the likelihood of Jadarian Price staying another year to take over.
I'd say low.
Top of the depth chart, very low. Like it just feels like everyone knows how good this guy is.
And
he doesn't have to prove anything. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, this is his 4th year.
Right. That's what I mean. He's a senior in school. So, he'd be able to leave with a degree. I don't know how his stock could go higher. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how his stock could be higher.
I don't either.
He's got plenty of film. He's got plenty of, all the things.
Fewer carries on his legs, few hits on his body. That's all perfectly fine with him. I would be shocked if he isn't like at worst, a 3rd round type guy, So I would see both of them go in the first 2 rounds. All right, we got to get out with that. We will have a full show tomorrow. Jesse will be back after his wedding and extended honeymoon. So Jesse will be back on tomorrow's show. Vince, enjoyed it as always. I will talk to you later.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Monday Night Football is next.